Once there was a man named Robert. He lived in a small town with his wife, Amelia, and their 2 kids, Nick and Olivia. Robert worked in a company. Nick was in 7th grade, and Olivia was in 6th. They always got top grades, but they were very naughty. Their pranks kept their parents constantly worried. Robert and Amelia told them to behave, but they never seemed to listen. Their classmates often got into trouble because of their mischief. One morning, Amelia was in the kitchen. Robert was getting ready. Nick and Olivia freshened up and put on their uniforms. Olivia went to the kitchen and sat at the table. Nick, hiding gum in his hand, walked in and dropped it on the chair beside him. Olivia saw and smiled at him. Robert came in, sat next to Nick, and Amelia served breakfast, tea, toast, omelette, cheese sandwich, jam, and chocolate milkshake. They started eating. After breakfast, Robert tried to stand but couldn't move.
"What's happening?"
he said. Amelia rushed over. Robert grabbed Amelia's hand and tried to stand, but he couldn't. Nick and Olivia were smiling, but they quickly tried to hide it. Suddenly, Robert noticed and said,
"Who put the glue on my chair? Speak up!"
Olivia pointed at Nick.
"It's Nick."
Olivia and Nick hurried to their room, grabbed their bags, and ran to school. Amelia smiled. Robert looked at her and said,
"You were joking too."
Amelia laughed.
"It's okay, Robert."
Finally, he stood up, changed clothes, and left for work. That night, Robert scolded Nick. Nick said sorry, but he wasn't really ashamed. One morning, Olivia and all her classmates submitted their math notebooks. As Olivia was organizing her things, Juliana walked to her desk.
"I did all the homework right last time,"
she said confidently.
"I'm sure I will do the same this time."
Olivia clenched her jaw but stayed silent. After Juliana walked away, Olivia said to her friend Diana,
"I only did 2 problems wrong last time, and she is taunting me. I will teach her a lesson."
Diana told her to just ignore it. During break time, Olivia quietly took Juliana's English notebook, ripped out the homework pages, and slipped outside the class. After recess, when English class began, the teacher started collecting the notebooks. Juliana opened her notebook She was shocked. The pages were missing. When the teacher asked her for the notebook, Juliana said,
Ma'am, I forgot my notebook at home.
The teacher said,
Show me your bag.
Juliana reluctantly opened her bag, and the teacher found the notebook inside. She shouted,
You lied! Now stand for the rest of my period.
Juliana stood, her face red with embarrassment, tears welling up in her eyes. The whole class stared at her. After the period, Juliana stormed up to Olivia's desk, her face red with anger.
You did it!
She shouted.
I knew it was you!
Olivia replied, You will need proof to tell, ma'am. Just then, Juliana's friend Elizabeth grabbed her hand. They both walked away. Diana said, It's not right. Olivia shrugged. Maybe. But it's not right for her to keep taunting me. If she keeps it up, I will take action. Diana sighed. She knew it's useless to say anything. One day during recess, Nick ran up to his classmate John.
John, your father just went to the principal's office.
John was surprised.
I didn't know he was coming today.
He quickly ran to the office and asked for permission to enter.
Come in.
The principal said. John stepped inside but couldn't find his father.
Sir, did my father come here?
He asked. The principal shook his head.
No. No parents have come in a while.
John went back to the playground, where Nick was eating lunch with Ethan. John approached Nick angrily.
Why did you lie to me?
Nick shrugged.
I saw someone who looked like your dad going to the office. So I told you. I guess I misunderstood.
John frowned and walked away. One evening, Amelia said, Robert, Laura is coming tomorrow. Robert smiled.
That's great.
When Nick and Olivia came into the living room, Amelia told them, and they both were worried. Mom, she is always criticizing us, Olivia said. Nick added.
Yeah.
Robert smiled.
She only wants what's best. Now, no more complaints.
After a pause, both kids went to their room. Olivia sighed. This week is going to be so boring. Nick shrugged.
We will see what happens.
The next evening, Aunt Laura arrived. Amelia greeted her with a big hug.
I have missed you all,
Laura said. Nick and Olivia stood nearby.
Hi, kids.
Laura said.
How have you been?
Olivia forced a smile.
Good.
Nick nodded.
Fine.
That night, Amelia headed to the kitchen to make tea.
Mom, we want tea, not milk.
Nick said, sitting at the kitchen table.
Milk is better for you, dear.
Amelia replied.
I just want tea.
Nick insisted.
Me too, Mom.
Olivia added. Amelia sighed but didn't say anything. When she was pouring tea into cups, Laura came.
Why are you making tea for the kids?
Laura asked.
They asked for it,
Amelia said. Laura shook her head and grabbed a carton of milk.
You should be drinking milk, not tea,
she said, warming it up. She poured the milk into glasses and handed them to Nick and Olivia. The kids exchanged frustrated looks but took the milk. They didn't like it, but they knew better than to argue. One evening, Olivia and Nick were studying in the lounge. Books and notebooks were scattered all over the floor. Aunt Laura walked in and raised an eyebrow.
Put these extra books and notebooks back in your bags.
Nick's face showed he wasn't pleased. Olivia sighed and started picking up the books and notebooks, putting them back in the bags. That night, Olivia and Nick were watching a movie when Aunt Laura walked in. She said,
You are not asleep yet. How will you go to school tomorrow?
With that, she switched off the TV and left the room. They stormed into their parents' bedroom.
This isn't fair,
Olivia said.
Aunt is stopping us from seeing our favorite movie.
Mom replied.
She is just trying to do what's best for you. Now, go.
They reluctantly returned to their room. They both decided it was time to take action. The next evening, Aunt Laura poured the tea into her cup and stepped outside. Nick sneaked into the kitchen and added salt to her tea. Then he went back. When Aunt Laura returned and took a sip, she spat the tea out.
Why is it so salty?
She muttered. Then she realized what had happened. Nick and Olivia exchanged glances, holding back laughter. But the mischief didn't stop there. Nick grabbed a rubber lizard from his bag and tossed it toward Aunt Laura. She screamed, but then she saw it was just a rubber toy. She stared at the kids. The next day, after school, Nick intentionally dropped oil on the stairs and stayed in his room, waiting for Aunt Laura to go downstairs. Suddenly, Amelia called Nick. In a hurry, he ran down.
Ouch!
He shouted as he slipped. They all took him to the hospital. Nick's right leg was fractured. Aunt Laura took great care of him. Nick admitted,
I spilled the oil on the stairs.
Olivia added,
We are sorry. Aunt
Laura hugged them and said,
I'm glad you understand now.